Welcome to week 4 of Living in the Land. And this week, we are talking about how Hollywood has come to the Heartland. You can thank ChatGPT for that one. Is we are joined by a very, very special guest and friend of Cigdem Slankard, who is a local filmmaker as well as director and associate professor of film and media arts at Cleveland State University right here in Greater Cleveland. So, Cheatham, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
So, one of the reasons I was so excited to have you join us is because when you think of Hollywood or films or so on and so forth, you don't always think of Cleveland, Ohio. And many, many around these parts may not know, but we have such an amazing event within our city, the Cleveland International Film Festival, which I think is on year 43.
47, 48th film
47.
festival.
Well, it was those COVID
48.
years that I think I forgot
Let's
about
get
there
this
for a
right.
while. Yeah.
So 48th film
That's
festival is
incredible.
starting in
Yeah.
April this year. Yeah, it started in 1977. I think that's where the sevens are like, remaining in our brain about the history of the film festival. But this year is the 48th year of the film festival.
So, for those of us out there who maybe aren't familiar with the film festival, don't know what it is, can you tell us a little bit about what is this event? How did it get started? How did you get kind of involved in this event?
Yeah. Well, Cleveland International Film Festival is one of the premier film festivals in the country. It's an Academy Award qualifying film festival, which means that if you're a filmmaker and you have a film that is included in certain programs during the film festival, during CIFF, Cleveland International Film Festival, your film can also be considered for an Academy Award nomination. So that's very important. Sometimes, because it's local, we think of events that are happening here as that, oh, it's just a local event. Not that local events don't matter. But Cleveland International Film Festival is actually an event that is at national caliber. It brings, dozens of filmmakers, if not more, to Cleveland to present their films and provides, 12 days of amazing programming to our community. And people come from out of town to watch these films, to be a part of this event. So it's really, really valuable in that way. And how did I get involved? So I moved to Cleveland in 2008, and I was excited about sort of getting to know Cleveland and settling in here. And one of the things that's very important to me in like where I live is the cultural fabric of the city. I don't want to live in a place that doesn't have a film festival, that does not have an art museum. I would be very sad. I would be bored and sad. And Cleveland, thankfully, has all those things and more. So, as a filmmaker, of course, I was most interested in the film festival. So, I started going, supporting the film festival in every way that I can. And as you mentioned, I'm a film educator and a filmmaker. So through my positions, currently at the Cleveland State University, I of course I see the festival as a very close partner. We live in a small town in a way, it's a mid-sized city, but I think it's very important to build those partnerships and connections between organizations. So I've been doing that for the past decade or so with Cleveland International Film Festival. And this year, I'm actually serving on the board of directors. It's such an honor to do so for this organization that I really, really value. So I'm, serving the festival at a different capacity a little bit, and that's been a wonderful experience as well. And you asked about the history of the film festival, and I was just looking at it. It's so cool. It started in 1977, and they showed 8 films from 7 different
Wow.
countries. And from that, like that is, I love that story of growth. You have this idea, you move forward with it. Perhaps you start small, but it has the nature, the essence of what it is that you want to do, to bring film to audiences around Cleveland that they may not have the opportunity to see otherwise. Something that will broaden their horizons, entertain them, make them think, make them feel a certain way, help them grow. And I sound a little like a nerd, which is true, but this is like my absolute passion. I really, really love the festival and what we do with it in the context of Cleveland film community. But anyway, so what was I saying? 1977, they showed 8 films from 7 different countries, and today, in 48 years, we'll be looking at many more films at Playhouse Square, much larger venues with that will, I think, bring around 100,000 audience members.
Wow.
So quite significant, I think.
Well, it used to be at Tower City, so it's at Playhouse Square now.
Yes, it is at Playhouse Square. It's Playhouse Square is the festival's third home,
Okay.
and hopefully permanent home. That is how we
Yeah.
like to think of it. Although we all really enjoyed our Tower City years, and that's where, when I came to Cleveland and became a big fan and supporter of the film festival, that's where it was for many years.
Yeah.
I
So,
never saw it Cedar Lee days.
well, when it was at Tower City, our offices used to be on the 5th floor of the MK Ferguson building, and every year they had the film festival party in the MK Ferguson kind of foyer.
Mhm.
So we used to crash the party every year and get food and drinks for free. So I appreciate you guys for that.
Good to hear. Anything
Oh.
Yeah.
to win film fans, enjoy the film festival. Join us, Dan.
Yeah, I know. Well, you welcome everyone. We might as well just
Yeah.
make ourselves at home. So, like, 100,000 people come. So is that from all over the world? I mean, a good amount from around the world, or just mostly the U.S.?
I mean, I think it's in terms of 100,000 people, audience members. I don't have the data, but
Yeah.
I think it's a safe assumption to say that the majority of that number is Ohio audiences.
Yeah.
But the festival will certainly bring a group of people from abroad presenting their films. Like I said, like the partnerships are so important. Like there will be a panel at the City Club, for instance, discussing one of the films, and
Yep.
there will be, filmmakers and their films will be featured on local media. Of course, there'll be a lot of discussion about it. So there'll be people coming from from abroad and from out of town to be a part of this event.
Yeah, because I ask because that's obviously a good amount of people. So when guests come from around the states or around the world, I guess, like what surprises them the most about the festival, or maybe about Cleveland that they didn't know, or when I think of film festival, I'm thinking, oh, Sundance, right? Or not Cleveland Film Festival, but if it's got award implications, that's awesome.
Yeah, I have a response to that. I think the filmmakers who come to the film festival, they leave in amazement for the most part, because we are so proud to treat our filmmakers with great respect and kindness and hospitality. So in a way, like the festival does an amazing job with that, but the city also really welcomes everyone. So they present their films. There's interest in hearing about the film. So they do speaking engagements at local media. They come to the film school, meet some film students, which they love. And then of course, they go see other films. They network with other filmmakers, and often people. I mean, I have never heard a complaint, I should say.
Yeah.
So all filmmakers who come here leave having had a really wonderful experience, and they come back. They submit their films again. So there are these sort of returning filmmakers who present here. And as far as people who come from out of town, I've known a few people who come from Pittsburgh, Toronto, places like that to experience the film festival, and they come because they like it. It really is a special program. Films that you may not be able to see other places, and it's a really fun environment. Great audiences, very friendly, and yet there's rigor. You're not just watching whatever. You're watching films that bring something important to the screen that's important, that's valuable. So people like to come experience that. And of course, like I live here, I like Cleveland. I like to kind of push it forward. The food is good when the festival is happening. The weather is good, and there's a great community. So unofficially, without relying on actual data sets, I will say that most people come and really enjoy themselves here in Cleveland during the film festival.
Well, as somebody born and raised here, it's obviously good to hear that from
Yeah.
somebody not here. So, but like when I think of the film industry, I'm thinking, we obviously know, well, I said Sundance just kind of on a whim, but like Hollywood and all that stuff. But a lot of films have been shot here in Cleveland, like especially like recently. Um, is there like an advantage or a disadvantage to maybe just not being a well-known place to shoot movies? I always think of some of my favorite, like Major League is like probably the most famous movie from Cleveland, but it was shot in Milwaukee. Or the most recent, like what a couple years ago, To Kill an Irishman is about Danny Green, and it's every 100% Cleveland story, and it was 100% shot in Detroit. Why? Or I don't know. Is there an advantage or a disadvantage to not being known as a movie city?
Well, Cleveland film industry is one that is growing. There's a lot of effort to grow the film industry here, which means that supporting local production, but also really bringing those bigger projects that you mentioned, the Hollywood projects, so
Yeah,
that they can be produced here in Cleveland. One of the reasons that the film school is in. At Cleveland State, the way it is, we were supported by a large funding, $7.5 million from the legislation in 2018, which really paid for our absolutely amazing facility for the most part. Um, and the reason why we have this homeschool is to help grow the creative industry here in Cleveland. And we do that. We have about 100 students graduating each year. So, and one thing I'll add, speaking of partners, Greater Cleveland Film Commission, it's their task essentially to bring large productions to town. And there will be multiple big productions coming this summer and next year.
Ooh.
nice.
So they work very hard at that. And so, but it all connects. It all connects because, like, my students will be on set on those productions as production assistants. Our alums will be working on those sets, which is amazing. And maybe some of those films might be screened in the film festival or other screens around Cleveland. So, is it an advantage or a disadvantage? It depends. Like, if what determines a film being produced in Cleveland really has to do with the realities of that film production, its budget, its circumstances and parameters that are there. So, we're when we have more production in Cleveland, we essentially create more jobs for Clevelanders and grow our local industry. There's
Yeah,
of course pride in like seeing,
yeah,
public square in a film, like that something was shot in my backyard. That's great. Like we like that, but beyond that, it actually pays people's mortgages and it
yeah,
is a very important industry to support. So yeah, so advantage versus disadvantage. I think we are not LA. Like we are not. I think that I do this with everything that I do. I think like it's very important to acknowledge who we are and be the best version of who we can be. We are Cleveland. We are a
yeah,
medium-sized city, and with a growing film industry, and that is what we have to offer. And as the industry grows, I do believe that in coming years, in the next 5 to 10 years, I think we will have even more to offer. So yeah, let's go with the advantage. If I
yeah,
have to
Yeah.
choose,
yeah. Well, the Avengers and Fast and Furious are welcome anytime. So,
well, yeah, I don't know if you're keeping up with the news, but there'll be some big films coming for
yeah,
production. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Now, do you find that a lot of your students, like after they graduate, are they staying local? Are they moving? Is it a little bit of everything?
It's a bit of everything. We have people who stay or go out of town. In fact, we're trying to organize so we go by FMA, Film and Media Arts. That's our like acronym in within the film school. So we have an event that we're planning called Life After FMA. So we're bringing one alum who is working in Chicago, who worked on the animation in the Batman film. Gosh, I'm
Oh,
like
cool.
blanking out on the title of the
Okay,
film.
yeah,
Right, but it's so that was he's like he graduated 2 years ago now basically, and then we have another alum who is working in Cleveland. She's working as a producer for the um, the slow TV show. Do you guys know the Netflix show called Baby Animal Cam? You know
No,
this?
Dan, I feel like Dan has twins. I feel like that's something that would probably
Yeah.
on your
Hold on.
television.
I'm going to look these up real quick just because, like, uh, baby animal cam. Baby rhinos, gorillas, otters, and orangutans bring new life and playful energy to their environments at Cleveland Metro Parks.
I'm
So
So,
fun.
I'm
and
googling as we speak.
please make a note. So one of our students works as a producer on that show. So those are the two that we're hoping to bring back. Many of our students are employed in local production companies. Some of them are freelance film people. So when production happens, they will work on those sets as freelancers. So it really runs the gamut. But people succeed, and I will
Yeah.
say, creative industries is there's not a direct line. You sometimes have to find your path and find what you're good at, and keep trying, and that certainly happens. But for the most part, it ends with a success story.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Now, you yourself are a filmmaker as well as all of the other things that you do. And so I'm going to put the link in the show notes of kind of some of your recent works. And a lot of when I was going through, a lot of kind of like what you explore, what you look at is right here within the city. But maybe some of the not like exciting things in the city, right? Like lead poisoning, number of
Mhm.
refugees that are coming. Um, Slavic Village, which is obviously a community that's kind of going through its own kind of transformation. Do you find being a filmmaker and really kind of being involved in some of these how does that connect you to kind of like the areas where you live, work, and play? Like what value was maybe that brought?
Yeah, I mean, I have two things to say about that. One is that I am an immigrant. I wasn't born and raised in the United States, and when I moved to Cleveland, I was a little surprised by, like, the smaller population for the larger city, which is essentially what we have, right? We have this larger city that was built for a larger population, but we have a smaller population. And being from Turkey, having lived in Istanbul, where there's really not an inch to spare, that kind of surprised me. And I started looking at neighborhoods with a more curious sort of way, like, why is this house like this, or why is this vacant, how come there are vacant houses, that kind of a thing. So that's one of the just looking at Cleveland and the Rust Belt in general, in America, from with my immigrant eyes, I was a little bit surprised, and I wanted to understand it better. And the other thing is that, again, this has to do with me being an immigrant. The idea of what home means,
Mm,
and where someone feels that their home, what that community is like, what it takes to build one. That has certainly been interesting. That's certainly be a bit, central question for my work. And what's funny, Julie, is that I didn't even realize when I started making these films, I didn't quite like have these big questions in mind as to, like, what does home mean in Cleveland, and let me look at Slavic Village. But you start making things, and then you start seeing the common thread between different questions that I have asked through my creative work, and that's how you get the body of work. And then you connect the dots, and, like, oh, this is how they all connect. And then one becomes more thoughtful about it, of course. Look at it. So essentially, understanding the place that we live in, that we belong. What does home mean? What does community mean? Those are very interesting questions to me, and I try to explore that through my work.
yeah. Which is beautiful. And how do you think that through film, you really have been able to bring awareness to, some of these causes, some of these things that maybe, again, it's not part of the everyday Joe and Jane's like day to day, but really being able to bring awareness to these issues?
Right. So one of the things that surprised me about my films is that, like, they've been screened in places that I haven't been. So that's always rewarding, I think. To I haven't been there, but my film has. So people who live in the city in Belgium or whatever, like, yeah, I've never been to Belgium, so I can safely say that. But that's always been interesting to me. So that is the power of film. So you can tell a story that is a specific local story. Is someone in the other end of the world might be interested in watching that, and there is so much power in that for me. That's really how we shrink the world. That's really how we understand one another and ultimately arrive at solutions to very, very complex problems. But often, because my films are, focusing on social change based issues, housing, and, really complicated issues, really, so to have the films really brought solutions to those specific issues, I wish I could say yes. I think they have helped make improvements, but certainly not you know big solution to a very complicated problem that really will take much more than documentaries, but documentaries can be a part of that process to a solution.
So you've got two opposite ends of the film festival spectrum between Dan and I. You have Dan, who's never attended outside of crashing a party.
Yep.
And then me, who is a avid film Cleveland International Film Festival goer and volunteer. So what recommendations, what are your like can't miss recommendations for this year's festival?
Well, mine might vary from other people's, but I will give you a few of the films that I will certainly see. But let me do my pledge for the film festival first. so
Yeah,
what I
please.
will what I will say is that, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to live in a city that doesn't have a film festival. Do you?
Oh, I love the film
Dan, do you
festival.
care? Would you? I mean, so you're like, well, to me, it doesn't make a difference because I've never been, perhaps. But sometimes we take things for granted in our cities. We take
Yeah.
for granted the theaters, the museums, the events that people work so hard to really bring to life. We have to remember that those things can't exist if we don't participate. Like, it is very important to remember that. And this is not like some sort of like chore, going to a film festival or going to a play.
No.
It's a privilege, and it's an amazing privilege, and I would like to really remind our audience to just go see a film and do it in the and I would I mean the festival has a streaming segment after the in-person component ends, and that's great for people who would like that sort of accessibility. But I really will call our audience to consider going to one film in person at the very least, because it really is a fun and special event. What films I'm really interested in seeing? So I'm really interested in seeing Unseen, which is a feature film about an undocumented immigrant who becomes a social worker and starts sort of helping their community. And through that process, they realize that they have some healing to do themselves. I haven't seen the film, but so this is one that I'm certainly looking forward to seeing. Closing night. So I don't know which party Dan crashed. Was it opening or closing?
Thing.
Probably,
Opening.
yeah,
So
opening.
that's more special. That is indeed, that does constitute crashing a party for sure. Um, the closing night usually is open to everyone, like anyone who sees a film.
Yeah.
So the closing night film this year is Devo. If you like Devo, and if you like stories that are focused around music, I will certainly
Devo,
be there.
Kent State, fellow
That's
Kent
right.
State alum.
All right, we'll let you have that one. Go Vikings. But yeah, and then one very important thing for me is we have 5 student films that are programmed as part of the Local Heroes Student Shorts program.
Oh,
You can count that
cool.
I will be there, and that I know that that room will be full with all the supporters of the students. So that's very, very interesting. But I'll say, like, the film festival brings so much stuff. Like, these are the 3 that I chose to mention. Um, you can look, like, do you like documentaries? Do you like mystery? Do you like horror? Do you like romantic comedy, family friendly films? You can kind of, like, it might take a minute to figure out the website structure to see, like, how do I find what I'm interested in. But if you take, I don't know, like 5 to 10 minutes looking at the website, I'm certain that you can find something that you are interested in.
And
One
I'm going to
other
give a
thought.
pro tip is
Oh,
that
okay.
sometimes in like the beginning of the week when things are really, really popular and get really, really good, they'll play them again. So you know if it's coming back again, that was something that really resonated with folks and was a good. But I have many a film that I've seen over the years that I still think about and that I still talk about and that I'm like, oh, like of all different genres. So I agree. Just get
Mhm.
get down there and check it out or check one of them out. And
Well, no,
Playhouse Square is so beautiful.
yeah, and it is like, I know you called me out there for a little bit, but no, I think people need to hear that though, because there's plenty of times where I'm telling people like, I can't believe you don't know, like, the Playhouse Square is the second largest or best outside of Broadway, or hey, yeah, I go to the see the orchestra, like we have the orchestra and nobody goes, and I'm like, you gotta go, and yeah, it's just something that I've never done, but yeah, I need to hear it from maybe somebody like you and keep me accountable. So I definitely will go.
What are you interested in that? Maybe we can find a film for you that is your introduction to CIFF this year.
Oh, I mean,
Maybe.
I love movies, but I think what I have been watching over the last 4 years, having twins, is yeah, I can't really watch The Godfather too much anymore. I don't
How
know.
old are your twins? May I ask?
They're 4.5.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Family shorts program.
yep.
Highly recommend. I took my kids. They're older now. They're 14 and 17. I have to think. But when they were little, we would take them and their friends, and it was always such a special thing to do. We still do, but sometimes the program is a little early, and my teenagers
Yeah.
sometimes don't want to rise so early on a weekend. But yeah,
I'm on it right now. I'm looking at the website. It's a super easy website to navigate. So
exactly.
there's
Yeah.
definitely.
I have one other thing to mention. If well, I mean, if you watch the podcast this long, right, I think we
Yeah.
can assume that you are interested in film and the film festival. So, through our partnership with the film festival, we organized this 2-day event at the film school at Cleveland State, um, the FilmMaker panels. So, we select around maybe 30 or so filmmakers who are here in town presenting their film at Cleveland International Film Festival, and organize 5 separate panels. This event is free and open to the public. And I find this to be very valuable. Of course, like you can watch an interview with a filmmaker through another, like on a website or something, but it's so cool to be able to ask someone questions in real time, and for our students in a way to for them to meet people in person, to see that they're just like anybody else. There are people who work hard and who are who are creative, who have this project to present. So those are happening on April 12th and April 13th, Friday and Saturday at the CSU School of Film and Media Arts, which is located on the Idea Center building on the 6th floor. So you are right at Playhouse Square. And so while you're
Yeah.
at it, you might go see a movie as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
send us the snip, we'll put it in we'll
Yep.
certainly
I would
link
love
to
that. Yes,
it.
please.
Yeah, for sure. My husband Scott and I used to, when we volunteered together. The one the one time there's like a room for the filmmaker, like your VIP or your guest room or whatnot. And he, is an amazing man. He probably is watching this right now, but he would always laugh at me because I'd be sitting there like in conversation and talking and like just hearing, how the passion of the filmmaker. But he'd be like, I'm picking up garbage. And you were like literally standing there and talking. I'm like, it's just who I am. Sorry. You knew this before you married me. But I think that is a really, really unique experience.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is different to really see someone's like passion and excitement about a project that they've poured a lot of time and energy and thought and passion into. One of them even told me it's like giving birth to a baby, right? Like it's a whole process. And I'm like, okay, I believe you.
Well, I actually want to ask about that because you're right. It does take a lot of time and effort. As an educator, though, have you ever watched a movie where it ended and you're like, what was that? Like, do you have to hold your tongue every once in a while? Like, have you ever watched something that you were just like,
Oh, with my
that's awful. That's horrible.
With my students' films?
Yeah.
I mean, there, of course, like.
I'm just trying to be funny, but there's got to be one.
Well, there are films that I don't necessarily like that my students make, right? And so there's my subjectivity as a person that what I value, what
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah.
There's that. But the thing is, an educator, like you kind of put that aside, like always, like creative process needs to have room for failure. No one shoots just to success. So you
Yeah.
have to allow yourself to fail, and you have to allow other people to fail. And hopefully in lower stakes situations than
Right.
otherwise. But yeah, so of course, I've seen student films where what were you thinking? Like, how did this happen? But then that might be a moment in my brain. And then after that, you look at it, it's like, okay, where's this person coming from and where are they trying to go? And then
Hmm.
how do we help them get there? So that's really the process of an educator. Like it's, you know, you very, very briefly, I mean, if it's something like totally weird or, odd or
Yeah.
really poorly made, um, we still try to look at it as like this is someone's effort and there is an interest in, you know, where are we trying to go with this and how can I help the student, achieve that goal. So
Okay.
yeah, but I also believe in failure. I mean, like it's so important that we have room to and freedom to make mistakes. Not everything that we make are going to be amazing, and that's very important for creative processes and other processes too. I think, right? Like
Yeah.
it's you have to keep working at it sometimes, all the time.